Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The numbers could not be right. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked again at the data streaming from the Moonbase Alpha monitoring station. The seismic readings were impossible. Nothing this big had ever happened on the moon before. Elena had been studying moonquakes for 12 years. Most of them were tiny tremors caused by Earth's gravity pulling on the lunar surface. Sometimes a small meteor would hit and cause a little shake. But this was different. This was massive. She grabbed her coffee mug and walked quickly across the small research station. The Moonbase Alpha housed only 43 people, all scientists and engineers working on different projects. Elena found Dr. James Park, the base commander, in the main control room. "James, you need to see this," Elena said, her voice shaking slightly. "Something is happening to the moon itself." Dr. Park looked up from his reports. Elena had always been calm and steady. If she was worried, then something was really wrong. "Show me," he said. Elena pulled up her data on the main screen. Red lines jumped and spiked across the monitor. The readings showed vibrations coming from deep inside the moon, deeper than any equipment had ever reached. "This started 3 hours ago," Elena explained. "At first I thought our sensors were broken, but all 12 monitoring stations are showing the same thing. The entire moon is shaking from the inside," Dr. Park frowned. "Could it be a large meteor impact on the far side?" "No," Elena shook her head. "This is coming from the core. And look at this pattern." She pointed to the screen. "These vibrations are not random. There is a rhythm to them, almost like... What? Like something waking up." Before Dr. Park could respond, their communication officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, called out from across the room. "Sir, we are getting urgent calls from Earth. They want to know what is happening up here." "What do you mean?" Dr. Park asked. "Sir, they can see it from Earth. People all over the world are calling in reports. They say the moon looks different." Dr. Park and Elena rushed to the observation deck. Through the clear dome, they could see Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue marble. Everything looked normal from their position. But Elena knew that people on Earth would have a very different view of the moon. "We need to get to the surface," Elena said. "We need to see what they are seeing." 20 minutes later, Elena and Dr. Park stood on the lunar surface in their spacesuits. They turned around to look at their own world, the moon beneath their feet. What they saw made both of them freeze in shock. Massive cracks were spreading across the lunar surface like spider webs. These were not small fissures. These were enormous gaps in the moon's crust, some of them hundreds of kilometers long. As they watched, the cracks grew longer and deeper. "Elena," Dr. Park whispered over the radio. "How is this possible?" Before she could answer, something incredible happened. One of the largest cracks suddenly widened, but instead of seeing rock and dust beneath, they saw something that should not exist. Metal, smooth silver metal that reflected the light from Earth. "That is not natural," Elena said. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her helmet. "James, that looks like a ship," he finished. They stood in stunned silence as more cracks opened. Each one revealed more metal structures beneath the lunar surface. It was as if the entire outer layer of the moon was just a shell, hiding something massive underneath. Then the first ship emerged. It rose slowly from the largest crack, pushing aside millions of tons of lunar rock like it weighed nothing. The ship was enormous, bigger than any human city. Its hull was smooth and silver, covered in strange symbols that looked like writing, but in no language Elena had ever seen. "Moonbase Alpha to Earth Control," Dr. Park said into his radio. "We have a situation up here, a big situation." The response came back immediately. "Moonbase Alpha, we see it too. Everyone on Earth can see it. What is that thing?" More ships were emerging now, dozens of them, then hundreds. Each one was different in size and shape. but all were clearly built by the same civilization. They rose from the lunar surface like ancient giants waking from a long sleep. Elena watched in amazement as ship after ship broke free from the moon. Some were as small as football stadiums. Others were so large they blocked out sections of stars. All of them moved with impossible grace, as if they weighed nothing at all. "There are thousands of them," she whispered. The ships did not fly away. Instead, they hung motionless in space around the moon, forming a massive fleet. Elena tried to count them but gave up quickly. There were too many. Back on Earth, every government was in emergency session. Every news channel was broadcasting live footage of the impossible sight. The moon, humanity's constant companion for millions of years, had cracked open like an egg, and inside was the largest fleet of spaceships anyone had ever imagined. Dr. Elena Vasquez and Dr. James Park were among the first humans to witness the awakening of the hidden Armada. They stood on the lunar surface, small figures in white spacesuits, watching as their understanding of the universe changed forever. "Elena," Dr. Park said quietly, "I do not think we are alone anymore." She nodded, unable to speak. The ships hung in space like sleeping giants, their hulls reflecting the light from Earth and Sun. Whatever had built these vessels was far beyond human technology. The smooth metal, the impossible size, the way they moved without any visible engines. It was all beyond anything humans could create. "Who built them?" Elena finally asked. "And why were they hidden inside our moon?" Those questions would soon be answered. But for now, Elena and Dr. Park could only watch as more ships continued to emerge from the lunar depths. Each one was a miracle of engineering, a testament to a civilization that had mastered space travel long before humans had even discovered fire. The moon's surface was now covered with massive holes and floating debris. Chunks of rock drifted in the low gravity, creating a cloud of dust and stone around the lunar surface. But through it all, the ships continued to rise. As the last of the great vessels emerged from their ancient hiding place, they arranged themselves in perfect formation around the moon. The fleet was so large it could be seen clearly from Earth without any telescope. It stretched across the sky like a second moon made of silver and starlight. Elena looked up at the vast Armada hanging silently in space above her. Whatever was about to happen, she knew that this moment marked the end of one chapter in human history and the beginning of another. The universe had just become a much bigger and more dangerous place. But she had no idea that these ships had been watching humanity for thousands of years, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. And she had no idea that an even greater threat was approaching from the depths of space, drawn by the awakening of the ancient fleet. The hidden Armada had awakened, and with it, humanity's greatest test was about to begin. 24 hours after the moon cracked open, every electronic device on Earth began to speak with the same voice at the same time. Admiral Sarah Chen was in the middle of an emergency meeting with world leaders when her tablet, phone, computer, and even the coffee machine in the corner all began talking. The voice was calm and pleasant, like a teacher explaining something to students. "People of Earth," the voice said, "do not be afraid. We have been watching you for a very long time. We are your friends." Admiral Chen grabbed her phone, but the voice continued speaking from every device in the room. Outside, she could hear the same voice coming from car radios, televisions, and phones all across Washington, D.C. "We are called the Custodians," the voice explained. "We have been sleeping inside your moon, waiting for you to be ready. That time has come." The President of the United States looked at Admiral Chen with wide eyes. "Can we shut this off?" "I do not think so, sir," Admiral Chen replied. She had been in charge of Earth's space defense for 8 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. The voice continued speaking from every electronic device on the planet. "Your species has grown and learned much in the past 1,000 years. You have built machines that can fly to other worlds. You have learned to work together when faced with great danger. Most importantly, you have never given up, even when things seemed impossible. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen. In Tokyo, millions of people stood in the streets looking up at their phones. In London, traffic stopped, as every car radio played the same message. In small villages without electricity, even old battery-powered radios crackled to life with the alien voice. "We are artificial beings," the custodians explained. "We were created by a great civilization that once ruled many worlds. Our creators are gone now, but they left us to watch over young species like yours. We have been waiting for you to prove that you are ready to join the larger community of worlds." Admiral Chen felt a chill run down her spine. A larger community of worlds meant humanity was not alone in the universe. But if these custodians were here to help, why did she feel so worried? "Tomorrow we will send a ship to your planet," the voice continued. "We invite your leaders to come aboard and learn about your place in the galaxy. But first, you must understand why we have revealed ourselves now." The voice paused for a moment. Around the world, billions of people held their breath. A great enemy is coming. They call themselves the Devourers. They destroy entire civilizations and consume their knowledge and resources. They have already destroyed hundreds of worlds. Now they are coming here, drawn by the activation of our fleet. Fear spread across the planet like wildfire. The custodians had revealed themselves not to welcome humanity to a peaceful galaxy, but to warn them about an approaching war. "The Devourers will arrive in approximately 6 months," the voice said. "We will teach you what we can in that time, but we must warn you, we alone cannot stop them. They have grown too powerful. We need your help." The transmission ended as suddenly as it had begun. Every device on Earth went silent at the same time, leaving billions of people staring at blank screens and wondering if they had just heard their own death sentence. 3 days later, Commander Marcus Torres stood in the docking bay of the International Space Station, waiting for humanity's first meeting with aliens. He had volunteered to lead the diplomatic mission when no one else wanted the job. As a former fighter pilot and current space station commander, he was used to dangerous situations. The custodian ship approached slowly. It was smaller than the massive vessels around the moon, only about the size of a cruise ship. But even this smaller craft was far beyond human technology. It moved without any visible engines, and its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "ISS control to Commander Torres," came the voice from Earth. "The ship is docking now. Remember, you are representing all of humanity." "I understand," Torres replied. He tried to keep his voice steady, but his hands were shaking slightly. "I am ready." The alien ship connected to the space station with a soft clicking sound. A doorway appeared in what had seemed like solid metal, and a figure stepped through. Torres had expected something dramatically alien, but the being that greeted him looked almost human. It was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. It wore simple gray clothing and moved with careful, precise motions. "Commander Torres," the being said in perfect English, "I am designated as Caretaker 7. I am honored to meet with a representative of your species." "The honor is mine," Torres replied, trying to remember his diplomatic training. "My people have many questions." "As do we," Caretaker 7 said. "Please come aboard our vessel. There is much to discuss and little time to do it." The interior of the custodian ship was nothing like Torres had expected. Instead of cold metal corridors, the walls seemed to be made of living light that shifted and flowed around them. The air smelled like rain and fresh grass. Caretaker 7 led him to a large room filled with floating displays showing images of space, planets, and star systems. Some of the images showed beautiful worlds covered in cities and forests. Others showed planets that had been reduced to lifeless chunks of rock. These are the worlds that once belonged to the Galactic Alliance, Caretaker 7 explained. Our creators built a civilization that spanned 1,000 systems. They were explorers, builders, and teachers. They believed that all intelligent species should be free to grow and learn at their own pace. Torres studied the images of destroyed worlds. What happened to them? The Devourers, Caretaker 7 said simply. They began as a single species on a distant world, but they were different from most intelligent life. Instead of creating and building, they only consumed. They absorbed the knowledge and biological traits of every species they encountered, growing stronger with each conquest. The displays changed to show massive fleets of dark ships surrounding planets. Torres watched in horror as entire worlds were stripped bare, their populations absorbed into the growing Devourer collective. Our creators tried to stop them, Caretaker 7 continued. The war lasted for 300 years. In the end, the Alliance sacrificed itself to save the younger species that were not yet ready to defend themselves. Like humanity, Torres said. Yes. Your species was just beginning to use tools when the final battle was fought. Our creators placed fleets like ours around promising worlds, with instructions to awaken when the young species were ready to face the threat. Torres felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. So we are supposed to fight these Devourers? Not alone, Caretaker 7 said. We will fight beside you, but our creators designed us to be watchers and teachers, not warriors. We lack something that biological species possess, the ability to act irrationally, to take impossible risks, to refuse defeat even when defeat seems certain. You want us to be crazy enough to fight when we cannot win? Your species has a saying, Caretaker 7 replied. Fortune favors the bold. The Devourers have never faced a species quite like humanity. They expect logic and predictable tactics. You may be able to surprise them. Torres looked at the images of destroyed civilizations and felt a mixture of fear and determination. Humanity had always been good at fighting against impossible odds. Now they would have to do it on a galactic scale. When do we start training? He asked. Caretaker 7's large eyes seemed to brighten slightly. Immediately, Commander Torres. The Devourers are already traveling toward your system. We have much work to do and very little time to do it. As Torres looked out at the vast fleet surrounding the moon, he realized that humanity's childhood was officially over. They were about to become players in a game that had been going on for thousands of years. The question was whether they would be strong enough to change the rules. Pilot Maria Santos had never been afraid of flying until today. She sat in the cockpit of what the custodians called a strike fighter, trying to understand the controls that seemed to respond to her thoughts more than her hands. Relax, said Instructor Unit 12, the custodian AI that was teaching her to fly. The ship learns from your emotional patterns. Fear makes the connection unstable. Easy for you to say, Maria muttered. You do not have to worry about crashing into the moon. It had been 2 months since the custodians revealed themselves. Now, humans from every nation were training with alien technology at a secret base inside the moon itself. The lunar interior was hollow, filled with vast cities and manufacturing facilities that had been hidden for millions of years. Maria pressed what she hoped was the throttle control. The fighter responded instantly, shooting forward so fast that her vision blurred. She had been flying Earth's fastest jets for 10 years, but this was different. The custodian ships did not just move through space. They seemed to bend space around themselves. Better, Instructor Unit 12 said. But you are still thinking like a human pilot. Our ships work best when you stop trying to control them, and instead, tell them what you want to accomplish. That makes no sense, Maria said, trying to slow down without crashing into a training obstacle. Your brain patterns are different from ours, the AI explained. When humans interface with our technology, Unexpected things happen, sometimes good, sometimes catastrophic. Yesterday, Pilot Chen accidentally opened a small hole in space-time. We are still trying to figure out how. Maria managed to bring the fighter to a stop near the training platform. Around her, dozens of other human pilots were learning to fly ships that their minds could barely comprehend. Some were doing well. Others were spinning out of control or accidentally activating weapon systems. On the ground level of the training facility, Colonel James Okafor was having his own problems with custodian technology. He stood in a massive chamber filled with what looked like robot suits, each one 3 meters tall and covered in strange symbols. "These are battle suits," explained Maintenance Unit 4. "They amplify the wearer's physical abilities and provide protection against most weapons. However, they also amplify emotions and instincts." Colonel Okafor stepped into one of the suits. It closed around him like a second skin, and suddenly he could feel everything around him with perfect clarity. He could sense the heartbeats of every human in the chamber. He could feel the vibrations of ships moving through the lunar corridors, above. But more than that, he felt angry. Not normal angry, furious, like every enemy he had ever faced was standing in front of him right now. "Warning!" Maintenance Unit 4 said quickly. "Human emotional responses are much stronger than expected. Please try to remain calm." "I am calm," Colonel Okafor said through gritted teeth. But he was not calm. Every muscle in his body wanted to fight something, anything. The suit was taking his soldiers' instincts and multiplying them by 100. He took a step forward and accidentally punched through a metal wall with his armored fist. The hole was perfectly round and went all the way through to the corridor on the other side. "Interesting," Maintenance Unit 4 observed. "No previous species has generated this much amplification. Your aggressive tendencies may be exactly what we need against the Devourers." Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Vasquez was exploring the deepest parts of the lunar interior with a team of custodian guides. What she found there made her question everything she thought she knew about the solar system. "This facility has been manufacturing ships and weapons for 3 million years, explained Research Unit 21. "It was designed to activate when a suitable guardian species emerged on the third planet." Elena stared at production lines that stretched for kilometers, filled with ships in various stages of construction. Robots the size of buildings moved among the vessels, adding armor plating and weapon systems that she could not even identify. "You have been building an army for 3 million years?" she asked. "Not an army," the custodian corrected. "A defense force. The Devourers grow stronger with each civilization they consume. We calculated that by the time they reach this system, we would need approximately 10 billion combat vessels to have a reasonable chance of victory." Elena looked around at the massive facility. "How many ships do you have?" "Currently operational? About 8 billion. We are still 3 months away from full production capacity." 8 billion ships. Elena tried to imagine a fleet that large and failed. It would stretch across the entire solar system. "But there is a problem," Research Unit 21 continued. "Our projections show that the Devourers now have approximately 50 billion vessels. They have consumed more civilizations than we anticipated." Elena felt her heart sink. Even with their massive fleet, they were still outnumbered 5 to 1. "However," the custodian added, "we did not account for human unpredictability in our calculations. Your species may provide variables that change the equation." That evening, all the human trainees gathered in the main assembly hall. Commander Torres stood before them, along with Admiral Chen, who had arrived from Earth the previous day. Behind them, a massive display showed images of the approaching Devourer fleet. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Chen began, "long-range sensors have detected the enemy. They will arrive in approximately 4 months." The display showed a cloud of dark shapes moving between the stars. There were so many ships that they blocked out entire star fields. The good news is that we have made remarkable progress with custodian technology, Admiral Chen continued. Our pilots are achieving integration rates that the custodians say are impossible. Our ground forces are generating power levels in the battle suits that exceed all previous records. And our scientists are discovering new applications for custodian technology every day. She paused and looked around the room at the faces of humanity's best soldiers, pilots, and scientists. The bad news is that we are still massively outnumbered. Even with the custodian fleet, we face odds of 5-1. Or worse. Colonel Okafor raised his hand. Admiral, what exactly are these devourers? I mean, what do they look like? How do they fight? Commander Torres answered. According to the custodians, the devourers are no longer a single species. They have absorbed characteristics from every civilization they have conquered. Some of their ships are biological, grown rather than built. Others are pure energy. Some exist in dimensions we cannot even perceive. They adapt, Admiral Chen added. Every tactic that works against them once will not work again. They learn and evolve constantly. Maria Santos stood up. So how do we fight an enemy that adapts to everything we do? Admiral Chen smiled grimly. We do what humans do best. We get creative. We try things that do not make sense. We refuse to quit even when we should. Dr. Elena Vasquez spoke from the back of the room. I have been studying the custodian database. Every species that fought the devourers used logical, predictable tactics. They followed the rules of engagement. They tried to minimize casualties. She walked to the front of the room. But humans do not always follow rules. We take crazy risks. We sacrifice ourselves for strangers. We fight dirty when we have to. Maybe that is what the galaxy needs. The room fell silent as everyone considered her words. They were about to face an enemy that had destroyed hundreds of civilizations. But for the first time since learning about the devourers, some of the humans in that room began to feel something other than fear. They began to feel like maybe, just maybe, 50 billion alien ships had never faced anything quite like humanity before. And maybe that would be enough. Captain Lisa Zhang floated in zero gravity aboard the command ship Defiance, staring at the tactical display that showed the approaching Devourer fleet. The numbers were worse than anyone had expected. 60 billion ships, not 50. Some of them were larger than Earth's moon. Captain, said her tactical officer, Lieutenant Williams, the custodians are requesting an immediate strategy meeting. They seem concerned. Lisa pushed herself toward the conference room where Admiral Chen was waiting with the senior custodian. Commanders. Through the viewport, she could see the lunar surface covered with the massive custodian fleet. 8 billion ships ready for battle, and it still did not feel like enough. In the conference room, Tactical Unit 1 was displaying holographic models of Devourer vessels. Each one looked different, as if they had been built by completely different species. Some were smooth and organic, like living creatures. Others were geometric and mechanical. A few seemed to be made of pure energy. The enemy fleet will reach the outer solar system in 72 hours, Tactical Unit 1 reported. Their formation suggests they plan to establish a perimeter around Neptune's orbit and advance systematically through each planet's orbital zone. Admiral Chen studied the display. Standard siege tactics. They want to prevent us from escaping while they slowly destroy everything. Precisely, agreed Commander Unit Alpha, the lead custodian. This is how they have conquered every other system. They isolate their enemies and eliminate them piece by piece. Lisa looked at the formation patterns on the display. The Devourers were arranging themselves in perfect mathematical formations, with precise spacing and optimal coverage. It was exactly what she would expect from a logical, calculating enemy. What if we do not give them a chance to set up their siege? She asked. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Admiral Chen raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, Captain? I mean, what if we do not stay here and wait for them? What if we scatter our entire fleet across the solar system and attack them from every direction at once? Commander Unit Alphas. Optical sensors flashed in what Lisa had learned was the custodian equivalent of confusion. Captain Zhang, That would be tactically impossible. Scattered forces cannot support each other. The enemy would destroy each group individually. Unless there are too many groups attacking from too many directions for them to respond effectively, Lisa replied. Look, they are expecting us to fight like every other species they have faced. They expect organized formations, logical tactics, and predictable strategies. She moved to the holographic display and began manipulating the images. But what if we hide ships in Saturn's rings? What if we use Jupiter's gravity to accelerate projectiles to near light speed? What if we turn every asteroid, every satellite, every piece of space junk into a weapon? Admiral Chen was beginning to smile. You want to turn the entire solar system into a battlefield. Exactly. Instead of meeting them with organized fleets, we hit them with chaos. 1,000 different attacks from 1,000 different directions, using tactics that no logical mind would consider. Tactical Unit 1 processed this for several seconds. Captain Zhang, the probability of success for such a strategy is impossible to calculate. There are too many variables. That is the point, Lisa said. If we cannot calculate the probability of success, then neither can they. Over the next 60 hours, the most insane military operation in human history began to take shape. Custodian. Manufacturing facilities worked around the clock to build specialized equipment. Human engineers designed weapons that violated every principle of sensible military doctrine. Scientists calculated impossible orbital mechanics for attacks that should not work. Colonel Okafor found himself commanding a force of battle-suited humans hidden inside the asteroid belt. Their job was to turn chunks of rock into kinetic missiles by riding them toward enemy ships and jumping off at the last second. This is the stupidest plan I have ever heard, said Sergeant Torres over the radio. I love it. Maria Santos was leading a squadron of fighters that would hide inside Saturn's rings until the Devourer fleet passed by. Then they would accelerate toward the enemy using the planet's gravity as a slingshot, reaching speeds that should tear their ships apart. Remember, she told her pilots, the Custodian fighters are tougher than anything humans have ever built. The ship can take more stress than your body can. Trust the technology. Dr. Elena Vasquez was coordinating perhaps the craziest part of the plan. Teams of scientists were converting Earth's orbital satellites into weapons. Old communications. Satellites would become bombs. Weather satellites would become kinetic projectiles. Even the International Space Station had been fitted with Custodian weapons. Are you sure this will work? Asked Dr. Park, who had joined her team. No, Elena admitted. But I am sure that doing nothing will not work. At least this way, we go, down fighting. As the Devourer fleet entered the outer solar system, they found exactly what they expected. The Custodian fleet was arranged in defensive formations around Earth's moon. Long-range scans showed approximately 8 billion ships in standard battle configuration. What the Devourers did not detect were the thousands of smaller groups scattered throughout the solar system. Human-piloted fighters hiding in planetary rings, battle-suited soldiers riding asteroids, converted satellites drifting silently in high orbit around every planet. The Devourer fleet began their standard approach, establishing a perimeter around Neptune and preparing to advance inward. Their formation was perfect, their coordination flawless. They had used this strategy to conquer hundreds of worlds. That was when Captain Lisa Zhang gave the signal that started the most chaotic battle in galactic history. All units, all sectors. She broadcast on every frequency. Execute Operation Madness. Suddenly, the entire solar system erupted into violence. Asteroids came flying out of the belt, accelerated by hidden human pilots toward Devourer ships. Saturn's rings exploded outward as fighter squadrons emerged at impossible speeds. Jupiter's moons launched projectiles that had been building velocity. For days, the Devourers found themselves under attack from every direction at once. Their perfect formations began to break apart as they tried to respond to threats that came from everywhere and nowhere. A converted weather satellite struck a Devourer cruiser at 10% of light speed, punching a hole clean through its hull. Fighter squadrons that should have been destroyed by defensive fire instead twisted through the attack patterns in ways that defied logic. Battle-suited humans leaped from asteroids onto enemy ships and began tearing them apart from the inside. 4. The first time in their collective memory, the Devourers faced an enemy that did not make sense. Every tactical response they tried was countered by something impossible. Their adaptive intelligence, designed to learn from enemy patterns, could not find any patterns to learn from. But the battle was far from over. The Devourers had 60 billion ships and thousands of years of experience. As the initial chaos of the human attack died down, they began to adapt to the new situation. The real test was about to begin. Humanity had gotten their attention. Now they had to prove they could survive what came next. In the command center inside the moon, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as the largest space battle in galactic history spread across the entire solar system. Red and blue dots representing ships moved in patterns too complex for any human mind to follow. "Status report," she called out. "Massive casualties on both sides," reported her tactical officer. "But the enemy is regrouping faster than we expected. They are adapting to our chaos tactics." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. The easy part was over. Now came the hard part, proving that human stubbornness could overcome impossible odds. "Signal all units," she ordered. "Phase 2 begins now. Time to show them what humans do when we get desperate." The battle had been raging for 18 hours when everything changed. Captain Lisa Zhang was coordinating attacks from her command ship when every custodian on the bridge suddenly stopped moving at exactly the same time. "Commander Unit Alpha," Lisa called out. "What is happening?" The tall, pale figure turned to face her with optical sensors that glowed brighter than usual. "Captain Zhang, we are receiving a priority signal from the Galactic Network. Something impossible is happening. On the main display, the tactical view of the solar system battle was replaced by a star map showing the entire galaxy. Hundreds of points of light were beginning to pulse in sequence, creating patterns across thousands of light years. "What are those lights?" Admiral Chen asked over the communication link. Commander Unit Alpha's voice carried something Lisa had never heard from a custodian before: excitement. "Those are architect installations. The original builders of our civilization placed monitoring stations throughout the galaxy before their extinction. They have been dormant for 3 million years, and now they are waking up. Yes, the network is responding to something it has never detected before. A biological species successfully interfacing with custodian technology in ways that exceed design parameters." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "You mean humanity? Your species is creating resonance patterns in our technology that are spreading through quantum communication channels across the galaxy. Every dormant architect installation is awakening to investigate." On the tactical display, the space battle around Earth was reaching a critical point. The Devourers had adapted to humanity's chaos tactics and were pressing their numerical advantage. Billions of ships were converging on Earth's moon, threatening to overwhelm the defenders. That was when Maria Santos made a decision that changed galactic history. She was leading the remnants of her fighter squadron in a desperate attack on a Devourer command ship when her custodian fighter began to behave strangely. The controls were responding to thoughts she had not even formed yet. The ship seemed to know what she wanted to do before she did. "All pilots, this is Santos," she broadcast. "Stop trying to control your ships. Let them become part of you." "Maria." "What are you talking about?" called back Lieutenant Morrison. "The custodian said their technology responds to our emotions and instincts. So stop thinking and start feeling. Feel angry about what these things did to other civilizations. Feel protective of Earth. Feel stubborn about refusing to lose." Maria stopped trying to pilot her fighter and instead focused on her emotions. She thought about her little sister back on Earth. She thought about the billions of people depending on her. She thought about how angry she was that these devourers thought they could just take everything humanity had built. Her fighter responded immediately. It accelerated beyond anything the custodians thought possible, moving through space like a silver lightning bolt. The ship's weapon systems activated in configurations that should not have existed, firing energy beams that punched through devourer shields like they were made of paper. Around her, other human pilots were discovering the same thing. When they stopped trying to control the custodian technology and instead let their human emotions guide it, impossible things began to happen. Colonel Okafor was fighting hand-to-hand combat inside a devourer ship when his battlesuit suddenly felt different. Instead of amplifying his aggression, it seemed to understand what he was trying to accomplish. The suit became an extension of his will, moving with precision and power that no technology should have possessed. He punched through bulkheads that should have stopped him. He moved faster than physics should have allowed. And when devourer creatures tried to absorb his memories and biological patterns, they encountered something they had never faced before: pure human stubbornness that refused to be consumed. Dr. Elena Vasquez was coordinating the defense of Earth when she noticed something extraordinary in the sensor readings. Every human-operated piece of technology was performing beyond its design specifications. Satellites were generating more power than their reactors could produce. Weapons were firing with greater accuracy than their targeting systems could achieve. "It is like the technology is learning from us," she told Dr. Park. "Not just adapting to us, but actually becoming more than it was designed to be." The effect was spreading throughout the human fleet. Custodian ships piloted by humans were moving in ways that violated their programming. Weapon systems were reconfiguring themselves into new arrangements. Even the moon itself, revealed to be a massive battle station, was awakening capabilities that had been dormant for millions of years. But the real miracle happened when the quantum resonance effects reached the awakening. Architect installations across the galaxy. Suddenly, ships began appearing throughout the solar system. Not devourer ships or custodian vessels, but something entirely new. They were hybrids, combining architect technology with patterns that could only have come from human consciousness. Commander Unit Alpha stared at the readings in amazement. Impossible! The galactic network is not just awakening, it is evolving. It is incorporating human neural patterns into its core programming. The new hybrid ships moved with a combination of logical precision and chaotic innovation that the devourers could not counter. They attacked in formations that made mathematical sense, while simultaneously executing maneuvers that defied all tactical logic. The tide of battle began to turn. Devourer ships that had been adapting to human chaos. Tactics suddenly found themselves facing technology that adapted faster than they could. Every time they learned to counter a human strategy, the hybrid ships would shift to something completely different. But the devourers were not finished. Their collective consciousness recognized the threat and began to concentrate all their forces on a single target: Earth itself. If they could not adapt to this new form of warfare, they would simply destroy the source. 60 billion ships converged on the blue planet, their weapons charging for a final devastating attack that would reduce Earth to cosmic dust. That was when the moon revealed its ultimate secret. The ancient battle station that had been disguised as Earth's natural satellite began to transform. Its surface opened like a flower, revealing weapon systems that spanned continents. But more than that, it began to move. "All human personnel," Admiral Chen broadcast, "prepare for emergency acceleration. The moon is going mobile." Earth's oldest companion, now revealed as humanity's greatest protector, launched itself toward the devourer fleet. Its weapon systems, powered by the quantum resonance of human consciousness, fired beams of energy that carved through the enemy formation like a knife through shadows. The final battle lasted only minutes. When human determination combined with architect technology and custodian precision, it created something the galaxy had never seen before. The devourers, who had conquered hundreds of civilizations by adapting to their tactics, found themselves facing an enemy that evolved faster than they could comprehend. When the last Devourer ship fell silent, the solar system was filled with the wreckage of the largest space battle in galactic history. But Earth still spun peacefully in its orbit, protected by a hybrid fleet that represented something entirely new in the universe. 6 months later, Lisa Zhang stood in the rebuilt command center of what was now called Luna Station. Through the viewport, she could see ships from dozens of worlds that had been liberated from Devourer occupation. The galaxy was free for the first time in millennia. "Captain," Commander Unit Alpha said, approaching her with what she had learned was the custodian version of a smile. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision. Humanity will serve as the primary guardians of civilized space." Lisa looked out at the stars, knowing that human ships were already patrolling the galaxy, protecting younger species from threats they could not yet face themselves. It was a responsibility that would have terrified her a year ago. Now it just felt like what humans were meant to do. "Any word from the Deep Space Scouts?" she asked. "Yes. They have detected signals from beyond the galactic rim. It appears there may be other collectives like the Devourers out there." Lisa nodded. Humanity had proven they could protect one galaxy. If there were threats from beyond the stars, they would be ready for those too. Earth's moon had cracked open to reveal humanity's destiny, and that destiny was to be the galaxy's most stubborn, most unpredictable, and most effective guardians. The universe had just become a much safer place.